But besides that, we are English speakers. I am a teacher. I teach Spanish in my country to students a bit older than you guys. I teach Spanish to teenagers. I actually used to live in Colombia at a point in time. I love Colombia. I miss Colombia. It's so beautiful. It is so hot in Trinidad these days. It's very, very hot. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm so hot. I'm thinking if I were in Bogota right now, it would be so cool and wonderful. And I'm hot all the time and I miss it. I miss arepas. I miss chorizos. I miss having calentado in the morning, but I do not like changua. I think changua is awful. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. It's not my favorite. But I do miss Colombia. I do love the culture and I love the people. So that's me. If I know that my stories could never be as interesting as the stories of the other people on this chat, however.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Luella. All right. So we're going to move from Luella and then now we're going to go to Ascala. Ascala is going to tell us a little bit about herself. And yeah, Ascala, the floor is yours.
Hi, guys. Good morning. In fact, it's morning there, right?
Yeah, it's morning here.
I'm a bit confused because where I am in the world, it is now 5:30 in the afternoon. So my day is coming to a close as your day is just beginning. As Mr. Romain said, my name is Ascala. I'm also a teacher like Miss Luella. And I'm not sure if you can tell by my accent, the way that I speak, which country I was born in. So I'm sure once we've done all our introductions, I'll get to speak to some of you guys and you can try to guess where I was born. Or where I currently live, I should say, where I currently live. So,
okay.
I'll let that. Yeah. What else can I tell you? I also, like Luella, lived in Colombia before. I lived in a few different places. My first city that I lived in was Valledupar. And then I moved to Bogota. And after Bogota, I went to Cali. So I've lived in various different regions within the country. I've got to experience all of your beautiful culture. And now I'm here sharing again with some beautiful Colombian people. So I'm sure once we've had the end of the introductions, I'll get to speak to some of you a bit more.
All right, thank you, Ascala. All right, now we're gonna move over to Renee. Renee is gonna tell us a little bit about herself. Go ahead, Renee.
So I don't know if you guys have seen so far, the first two, Luella and Ascala, have all lived in Colombia. So can you guys imagine? Renee has also lived in Colombia too. When Romain did the introduction and said that, you know, you're going to be speaking with people who maybe were born in one place, grew up in another, that's Renee. I was born in the US. I grew up in Jamaica. My family is all from Jamaica. And then I went back to the US for high school. And since then, just like everybody else, I'm also an educator. I'm not teaching in the classroom. I am directing a program called Destination Imagination in the city of Panama, and I am an inclusion specialist. So I work with students that have diverse needs, such as learning English as a different language, as well as kids who maybe have challenges with learning. I consider myself what we call a TCK kid, which is a third culture kid, because I've been growing up and living in different cultures. When I lived in Colombia, I actually went to Colombia first as a student in Bogota, in La Universidad de los Andes. And I lived in Bogota, Cali, and then in Cartagena. And now I'm here in Panama, soon to be leaving and going off to a whole nother culture, whole different region of the world, which is called Taiwan. It's a great pleasure to be on here with you guys during summer camp. Summer camps are awesome. This year, I know everything is virtual. I have a daughter who would love to be in her 2-week summer camp, diving into the lakes and swimming, but I'm glad that you guys are up this morning and here to participate with us.
All right, thank you, Renee. Thank you so much. All right, so my question now, so we're gonna have a few questions for all these people. I'm going to start with Luella. Luella, what is the most interesting thing about your culture that you want these students to know? what is the most interesting thing about your culture?
Well, in my opinion, I think that in my country, the most important thing that we have would be our people. Our people are so diverse. We all look different. Some of us even sound different. And it's so interesting because my country is very small. My entire country can fit in Bogota like 6 times. So it's very small. So, I mean, it's so interesting to see that even in a tiny country like mine, that the people look different, the people sound different, depending on the different places they live differently from the rest of us, you know? So I feel like the people would be the most important aspect of my culture. So if you were to come here, that is the thing that would strike you first, that we're all so different. You look around and we look different, we sound different, you know?
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Luella. Ascala, same question. What's the most interesting thing about your culture?
Well, I think my situation is slightly different because where I was born and where I grew up are not exactly the same. So I have a few things that I find that I'm attached to a lot, depending on one side of my culture, and a few things that are kind of connected to the other side of my culture. I'm not sure how much I can give away right now, but I will say one aspect of my culture that I'm really, really proud of is the music. I will say that. I will say that one area of my heritage has produced a particular type of music that I'm sure the students might be aware of, that has come from a little tiny place and expanded to all the way across the world, that everybody seems to know about. So I would say the music of my my culture is something that I'm really, really proud of. It brings people together, gets us moving, gets us active, allows us to really enjoy life, and is really representative not only of our little island, but our culture and our people in general. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you, Ascala. Renee, tell me about your culture. What would you, and this is so interesting because it's like a kaleidoscope of stuff, but what is the most interesting thing you tell these students about your culture, Renee?
The language. I would say the language is interesting. And I'm going to make a comparison because the students all live in Colombia. You know, if you were to travel to Cartagena or Barranquilla, the costeños have a total different accents than los paisas de Medellín, than los bayunos in Cali. So in my culture, language is different. Although the native language is English, there is a Creole that people speak, which we call patois. And many times that is challenging for people to understand. Like, for instance, when I would have friends come over and visit my house, and my mother and my grandfather would speak, and they didn't want anybody to understand what they're saying. They would go off into patois and tell us, you're doing this, don't do that, tell your friends. So I would say language is something. Although if you travel to the United States, where I was born, and you go to certain areas, you can pick up the different accents. You can pick up a Trinidadian accent where Luella is from. You can pick up a Jamaican accent because of the language has a different kind of different intonation to it. So definitely, I would say an interesting thing about the culture is language.
Okay, all right. Next question, guys. I have next question for you guys. What would surprise a Colombian? What would surprise a Colombian if they should visit your country? So Luella, if a Colombian should visit Trinidad and Tobago, what would be the most surprising thing for them? What would they say, like, oh my God, what is this? Or wow, this is so cool.
I think it's probably what would surprise them might be the food, when they walk around and they realize that we have just like in Colombia, there are a lot of people who sell street food. There are a lot of different kinds of food you can have. I think they'd be surprised to see the kinds of things that we eat. Like they'd be a little surprised that we like to eat like pig feet. We love it. Or we eat chicken feet. Or like some people eat tripa. They like tripe. I hate tripe. But there are a lot of people who absolutely love it. And I think that also they would be so surprised that we eat so much spice here. I think we just pile pepper on everything. There's pepper in everything. There's black pepper on everything. There's chilies on everything. We absolutely love it. And I think there might be some Colombians who may not be very happy about that, but there will be some of them who will be like, wow, that's different. I haven't had this before. I like it. You know? So I think definitely the food might be the thing that might jump out at them first, you know?
Okay, all right, interesting. So guys, when you get to, if you ever visit Trinidad, did you tell them where Trinidad is located, by the way?
Oh no, I didn't do that. I forgot to do that. Well,
Okay.
Trinidad actually is not really that far from Colombia. In fact, it's actually really close to Venezuela. It's an island that's really close to Venezuela, just like let's say about an hour away by sea. So yeah, it's really close to Venezuela, and I guess in that way it's not really that far. It's like the same region, you can say.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. All right, Renee, same question. What would be the one thing that a Colombian would be most surprised about when they get to your country?
Okay, so if you were to go to the US, I'm going to speak about the US, something that would be surprising is that Miami is not the capital of the United States of America. A lot of people tend to think that if they go to Miami, Orlando, or New York, that is the capital. The capital is actually Washington, D.C. And each state in the US has its own unique culture. As I mentioned, I went to high school in Massachusetts, which was one of the original 13 colonies. And then I moved to Houston, Texas. And when I moved to Texas, I felt like I was in a whole nother world. Texas was not the north. Texas was huge. The accent, the way that people spoke was different. So depending on where you go, you'll see how language changes as well from state to state. That for me was surprising, having grown up in the US and then move into a whole different state, was to Atlanta. People would make fun of me because of the way that I spoke. I was questioned, well, where are you from? You look like you might be from around, but they could see that there was a huge difference. So that might surprise you depending on what part of the US you visit.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you, Renee. Ascala, same question.
Sorry, repeat the question for me, please, Ro. I was so enthralled by Renee's answer. Repeat the question for me,
No, I'm
please.
saying if somebody from Colombia, one of these students should visit your country, what would be the most surprising thing for them? What would they look at and say, wow, this is interesting?
I would probably say that from my UK background, I would say if students were to go to the UK, they would probably be most surprised about the diversity of the people that live there. I think that a lot of people outside of the UK, they have a very specific idea of what people in London, specifically my city, what they look like. So I think people will be very surprised to see the wide variety of people from different cultures and the different ethnicities that are in the UK. I think that would be surprising for somebody who's never been there before.
Okay.
And
right, thank you. Continue.
Sorry, okay, I'll stop.
No,
sorry,
continue. I'm sorry.
I
Continue.
was going to say from the Jamaican aspect, what would I say? Probably kind of going in the same line of Luella, they would be very surprised about the food. And I would say, because it's a Caribbean island as well, we like things very spicy. Like we like the food to have like picante, pero mucho picante. So I think that, and also the similarities between the food. I think if people from Colombia were to go to Jamaica, they would recognize a lot of the things. A lot of the things wouldn't be strange. They would be like, oh, okay, I know that. We have that in my country. And there will be lots of connections to the island through the food that we eat. So I think maybe they'll be surprised about that.
Awesome. All right. Now we're going to go to a student. Natalia Gomez is here. And Natalia is going to ask one. I don't know who you're going to direct your question to, Natalia, but what would you want to know from one of these participants about your culture? What would you want to know?
Well, hi.
Hi, Natalia.
Hi, Natalia.
I think your stories were like so interesting for me. And actually, I would like to know to Ascala what like what did you think when you like lived here in Colombia? Like what was the first thing that looked interesting for you?
Okay. Well, thank you for your question, Natalia. First of all, thank you very much. I will say, I will tell you an experience. It's not necessarily a thing that I saw. It was something that happened to me. So Mr. Romain asked us the question of what would surprise you about a country if you were to go there? And, you know, the ideas that we have of different places. So before I moved to Colombia, in my mind, all of Colombia was tropical. It was sunshine every day. It was very warm and hot all the time. And coming from London, I was very happy to experience all of this sunshine and warmth and everything. So I went to Colombia and I had all of my summer clothes, summer dresses, sandals, all of these things. And I arrived in Bogota, and pues, you guys know como es el clima en Bogota. So I arrived there and it was very cold and I had no winter clothes. And so for me, this was something very shocking because I didn't expect that a city in Colombia could be very cold. So that was my first experience and my first, wow, what is this that happened when I arrived in Colombia?
Okay, all right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Does it answer your question? Yeah. Thank you.
And I think that's the same thing. I'm gonna join Ascala for a second. I think that's the same thing that happened to me. Before I got to Colombia, I thought Colombia was very tropical. I thought it was a hot country. Nobody told me that Bogota was freezing. Nobody told me it was so cold, especially coming from Jamaica, where it's like 32 degrees Celsius, coming to this country where it's like 11 degrees Celsius. This when I got here, it felt as if I had arrived to the North Pole. It was so cold. It was so unimaginable cold. But I guess after you've been here for a while, then you start getting used to it. I guess. Okay. Gabriel Riaño has a question. Gabriel.
I have a question for Ascala.
Oh, hi.
That is a question for me and for my mother. That's
okay. Is your mother there? Say hi. Hi, Mom.
No, she's in the work.
Okay.
So tell us the question, Gabriel.
She loves picante.
If she
Do
loves.
I love picante?
So in your country, what food is picante?
Okay, so from the UK side of my culture, from London, the food there is not picante. Yes, the food there is very bland. There's not a lot of flavor. There's not a lot of spices. It's very plain. But from the Jamaican side of my culture, I would say one of the very picante foods that we have is called jerk chicken. So it's chicken and they put sauce on it and they cook it in a special pan. They close the lid and it cooks for a long time. And then when you put it in your mouth, and then you maybe have to drink like a lot of juice to wash it down. And maybe you start sweating because it's so hot. But that is probably the one food. So if you go to Jamaica, Gabriel, you have to ask for jerk chicken, okay?
Yes, I will do.
Okay.
They come
Brilliant.
to the university.
All right.
Thank you for your question, Gabrielle.
Awesome. We're now going to move to Margarita Ocampo, and she has a question.
Hello, I want to talk with Rene, and I just want to ask the same question of Natalia, that what was like an experience or something like that that you see or lived in Colombia?
Okay, I'm going to connect two experiences. One would be when flying into Bogota, I was so surprised and amazed to see the mountains, the Andes Mountains, which lit up just the eastern side of the city. Where I lived in Bogota, I lived near La Esmeralda, and the lady that I lived with, she always told me that you know that you're going into the city when you can see the mountains and you can see Monserrate. So I always use that as my point of reference wherever I was going. So one day I was going to go to La Candelaria, but there are two Candelarias in Bogota, and I got on a bus to go to La Candelaria, but the bus was going far away from the mountains. And I'm like, I should be heading towards Monserrate, and I'm not going in the right direction because they were taking me to the Candelaria in the sur. So this is a very embarrassing story, but I'm going to share it because it's super funny. You know that to get off the bus, you have to hit a buzzer to indicate to the bus driver that you want the bus to stop. So Renee is vertically challenged. And what that means is that I am very short. And so when I was about to get off the bus, I didn't see the buzzer above me. So I thought, well, I'm going to do what the Colombians do. I always see Colombian men get to the corner, the bus slows down, and they just jump off. So I was like, I think I can do this. I'm going to wait till the bus gets to the corner. I couldn't see the buzzer. And I got to the corner and I was like, all right. And I jumped and I went, everything went everywhere. And as soon as I jumped off the bus and fell on the ground, somebody hit the buzzer. That was my interesting, embarrassing, Romaine is laughing, story, but I share it because after that, I learned to search, where is the buzzer, or tell the bus driver shouting, déjame en la esquina, so that I can get off. But the mountains and bus riding were interesting and awesome experiences that I enjoyed when living in Colombia.
Okay, students, let me just say, please do not follow this.
No jumping
guys.
off buses, guys.
No jumping
No
off
jumping off buses.
or anything. No. This is
Press
not.
the bell when you stop.
All right, that's interesting though. Okay, Martina Prada, she has a question. Go ahead, Martina.
Yeah, I have a question for Luella. I understand that you said that in your country they put a lot of pepper to things. So you have like an experience with a tourist or something, like they were like, it's so hot or something like that, like they were cry or something.
Yes, actually. One of my friends, when I was living in Bogota, he was originally from the UK. He was from England. And we decided that we would have lunch at my house. So I invited him and I cooked up some curry, because curry is something that we cook a lot of in my country. So I cooked curry chicken, pollo con curry, and I cooked it the way my mommy cooks it at home. So we're sitting at the table and we're having dinner, and the first spoonful he puts in his mouth, he's the person who's very light skinned. His skin is not like mine brown. His skin is very light. So you can actually see the color. As soon as he puts the spoon in his mouth, you see the color start to spread. And you see his eyes open wide like, oh my God, what is this? And he's like, yeah, you put too much picante in this food. It's, oh my God, where's the water? Give me some water, give me some milk, give me something. And yeah, so I realized at that time that not everybody can eat food the same way we eat food. I'm just like, I actually would go to the supermarket and I would be looking like, where's the picante? Like, where's the little peppers that we have grown in my country? I don't see it. And that's because you guys don't really eat that much of it. So it's not really there. So yeah, my poor friend had to suffer because I didn't think about it. I just thought it's so wonderful to sit with a friend and eat some pollo con curry. It would be so great. But poor child. Yeah, I did that to him. I'm such a bad friend.
All right. Okay, so guys, I know at the beginning, thank you, Luella. I know at the beginning I told you that there are going to be 4 people. Vijay is here. He is from India. And I'm gonna allow him, if I can find him on this again. I just saw him. I'm gonna give him, there he is. I'm gonna give him like 2 minutes. He's gonna introduce himself. He's gonna tell you guys where he's from and a little bit about himself, and then we'll move on. So hello, Mr. Indian. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good evening, where you guys are. My name is Vijay. I am from Mumbai, India, one of the busiest cities in the world, right? And crowded. I taught in Colombia for 3 years. That's where I learned my Spanish. And at the moment, I'm in Bombay or Mumbai. Right now, I'm teaching Spanish to kids in India, basic Spanish. Well, that's about me, like 3 years of traveling and teaching, now back in India.
I have a question because others answered some questions before. Here's your question. If a Colombian should visit India, what is the most surprising thing that they would see? Like, what would they be like, oh my God, like, wow, this is so cool, or wow, this is so different?
There would be many cultural shocks, actually. The other day, I was looking at the article where 2 men holding hands. So this is more about like the men bonding. It's nothing to do affectionate or romanticized, nothing like that. So this thing is like really a cultural shock. So I had a friend from Chile. He's like, why are guys holding hand in your countries? So that's like kind of bonding. And also a lot of people saying, why do you guys eat with hands? So that is the thing, eating with hands. So that's what I've realized many Westerners.
Explain that to us. Sure. Explain the whole concept of eating with your hands.
Right. So generally, like, as you know, the staple food could be rice and curry. And I think many others could relate to this. And we generally sit on the floor and then we use our right hand. We mix the curry with the food and then eat with the fingers, not literally like entire hand, but just with the fingers. And it is said that when you eat food with your hand, it kind of touches your body and you feel like satisfied. And also the food tastes better. And this kind of followed like across India in all the parts, yeah.
Okay, so we need to try when we get back to school. We all need to try to have lunch one day in the lunchroom with our hands and see if the food probably tastes. Yes, we're gonna try having it with our hands and see. It's quite different because it's not something that I think we're used to on this side. Maybe Trinidad and Tobago because they have an Indian, like, huge Indian population in Trinidad. So maybe something that they do. Do you guys do that?
We do eat with our hands there.
Oh, you do?
Of course.
Okay.
We have a kind of bread, you call it roti. And in Trinidad, if someone tries to eat roti with a knife and fork, we tell them, you, sir, are not from Trinidad and Tobago. Nope. You eat that roti with your hands, please. No.
And also at this moment, sorry to cut you short.
Use that.
Yeah. Also at this moment, I'm drinking chai. It's a very popular drink in India. In Colombia, they would call it te chai, and prepared with milk, ginger, and of course the tea leaves. It's a very common beverage in India in the mornings, in the evenings, to have a chai.
Okay. All right. I have a question. What would you've taught in Colombia and now you're teaching in your country? What are some of the differences that you've seen with Colombian students and Indian students? What are some of the huge differences or similarities? We'll talk about the differences first.
Sure. there's a lot of difference. I mean, first of all, like when it comes to Colombian children or even Chile, it's pretty much liberal. There's no this kind of like relationship, teacher-student relationship, like a very formal kind of thing. But in Asia, you have like, okay, he's a teacher, she's a teacher. I have to respect, and then I don't make a lot of noise. I'm like scared of my teacher. So that kind of things still exist in Asia. But in Latin America, we don't have that kind of like the difference, which is okay in its own way, of course. So that's one main difference. Similarity, children are always curious. Like everywhere I've been to, they're always curious about different questions, different things, customs.
Okay, all right, good. I'm gonna ask the same question to Luella. Luella, you've been in Colombia and you've taught in Colombia. Now you're back home in Trinidad. What are some of the similarities? Is Luella here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. What are some of the similarities that or differences that you've seen with Colombian students and students from Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, in my experience, I think it's kind of similar to what VJ just said. Our people are not, how do I put it? I won't say that we are not an affectionate people, we are, but we show affection through words. We talk to each other in a nice way to be sweet to each other. But Colombian children are very affectionate, but they're affectionate in a way that is, they touch people to show affection. So your students will hug you. Our students do not hug us. We don't have that here. So that's something that I find that was really different. The children are very loving, very sweet children. They will run up to you and they'll hug you. And that's very normal in Colombia. But in Trinidad, not really. We have that, what we like to call a professional distance, but it's really not that. It's just a matter of culture. They say it's something that we got from the British. I'm not very sure, but that's just the way we are here. We don't really hug each other, and no, we don't do that. So yeah, that's one of the differences I recognized.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask Ascala the same thing, but before Ascala responds, I do agree with Luella. Coming from Jamaica, Jamaica has been practicing social distancing in school since we were born. So social distancing is not something that's new to us. Jamaican students are not very affectionate, and I think, as Luella said, I think it comes from our British colonization. So I think because of how the British are, well, still are, that's how we as a country, especially those who are colonized by the United Kingdom, I think we still maintain this standoff type of thing. I swear, even coming here to Colombia, and the whole Colombia is a very affectionate country, so everybody greets you with kisses and good morning. This is not something that you do in Jamaica. This is not. I remember when I went back home to Jamaica after being in Colombia for a while, and I saw my friends, and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" Where was that? Wait, what's that? So it's not something that we do. It's very different. Not only at school, but in terms of relationship with people, like your friends or your family and stuff. So when we leave Colombia, we go back to our home countries. Everybody look at us as if we're weird. Like, what?
Yeah.
Can you still stop that? Like, so as I said, in Jamaica and in most of these countries like Trinidad and Tobago, and maybe in India as well, I'm not sure, but we've been practicing this social distancing thing for as long as we can remember. Before COVID-19 came into this world, we have been social distancing, but not like, and I assume for us it's not as difficult now, but for the Colombians who they can't really touch each other now, or there's no kissing going on now, I can imagine the heartbreak and the sorrow that they're going through right now. So let me ask Ascala, if I can find Ascala. There she is. So Ascala, tell us about that part.
I would definitely agree. I would definitely say the British side of me was also very professional when I arrived in Colombia. And because as a teacher in my job, they tell us we are not allowed to touch children. We are not allowed to hug children, anything like this. It's not allowed. It's not because we don't like the children and we don't want to be close to them. Our job says you are not allowed to do this. So when I got to Colombia, and I was teaching my students and they got to know me. And one of the first times I went into the classroom and the kids would run up and be like, hello, teacher. And I was like almost scared to let them touch me. I was like, no, don't touch me. Don't touch me. But not because I didn't want them to, because in my mind, it's like, this is against the rules. I cannot do this. But it was really lovely how open and affectionate the children were. And I thought that my children were always so much fun. I think in Colombia, you could always have so much fun with the students. They're always open and willing to learn things. And even when something's a little bit weird, they're always kind of, okay, I don't really know this, but I'll try. I'll see what it's like. And I think some of the other students that I have taught around the world are not as open-minded and fun and exciting and a pleasure to work with as some of you guys in Colombia.
Okay, all right, awesome, interesting. I hope you guys are learning a lot, because this, I explain this now. This meeting, this talk is for our students at Ontanar to understand that people are different. Like, although we live in Colombia now, but cultures are different, and there are things that unite us, and there are things that, I'm not going to say separate us, but things that make us unique, and this is one of them. All right. Jeronimo Alfonso has a question. So Jeronimo, let me hear your question. If he can just come up on the screen.
I have a question to BJ. Bijash, I say it's good.
Hi.
Hi. I have a question. When you come to Colombia, what amazed you? Like, what you see like different from your culture?
Well,
What
yes.
is different and amazing from here?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, like we've been talking about this for a while now in the group. I think the affection, the way of showing affection, I had never seen like when like you greet someone with a hug and with a kiss on the cheek. So that was something like really cultural shock. And then also showing PDA, public display of affection, is very common in Colombia, but in India, no, we don't really do PDA generally. So the public affection was something like a cultural shock at the beginning, but later on, I was fine with it. I was there for 2 years, so yeah.
All right, very good. Gabriela Acevedo has a question. Gabriela, ready.
Okay. My question was from Ascala.
You're looking very beautiful today.
What is your favorite food here in Colombia?
Oh, this is such a good question, Gabriela. And can I say your outfit today is very, very beautiful. You look like a little princess. You look so cute.
Yes.
My favorite food in Colombia. Oh, this is very difficult. I know this game. What would I eat? I think I really love a good sancocho. Like, I just love, you know, because inside you have the yuca and you have, maybe if you have like with fish, you can have some fish. Yeah, I think un sancocho with some like arroz, aguacate, you know, like oh yeah, I think that's my favorite meal in Colombia. I think so.
Okay, all right. Guys, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Everybody's hearing me? Yes, I think we're hearing me. All right, thanks, Ascala. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put you guys into breakout rooms, which means that each one of you, like, there'll be 4 different rooms, and in those rooms, one of our guests would be in each one, and you guys will kind of have a time. I'm going to give you like 7 minutes to, or less, 7 minutes to interact with each other, to talk to, ask them questions about their lives and stuff, things that you probably would not want to ask in this big group. So I'm going to put you into these breakout rooms and yeah, have fun. So after 6 minutes, we'll come back to the general room and then we'll do the final conclusion. All right. So remember, ask them all the questions. So Ascala will be in one room, Renee will be in another, Vijay will be in another, and Luella will be in another. Okay. So good luck. Here we go. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah.
How was your holiday? Good?
Good. I'm just like still practicing, and I'm doing like some activities of the school. And sometimes like I take a receipt and I go with my family to see movies or something like that.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So you're not bored. You're not bored at home.
No.
Awesome. That's good. All right. So I think everybody's back now. How was your meet? Let me ask Valentina Dasa. Valentina, you're gonna tell me which room you were in and tell me one thing you learned from the person who was in the room. Go ahead, Valentina. Vale? I think Valentina.
Okay, I was with Luella, yes, and what was the second question? Is that I didn't hear.
Tell me something you learned about Luella while you were in the room with her.
Okay, so we asked her quite few things, and they celebrate Christmas. They also do like so many food. I asked her if if someone of Colombia went to her country, what place would she recommend? So she said that she lived like in a place of 2 islands, and she said that one was called Morocco is one place. I think I don't remember very good.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. That's okay.
And the other thing is that she loved one guy that sing very good. That is called Voice, I think. And she said he was like their songs were so smooth and they were beautiful, like his name.
Okay. Okay, so voice has a good voice. All right. Let's go to Andres Rojas. Andres, tell us the room that you were in and what you learned.
I was also in the same room as Valentina.
Oh, you were in the same room? Oh, okay. All right, wait, Andres. I need somebody who was in a different room. Mariana Galindo, you were in a different room?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, all right. So Andres, we'll come back to you in a second. Let me talk to Mariana first, and Mariana is going to tell us about the room she was in and what she learned.
Okay, I was in the room of Renee, and we talk about the culture. I learned a lot, but I remember that she said that she visit a lot of countries, for example, Panama, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and all these things. And she talked about this culture.
All right, very good. Thank you. Jeronimo Alfonso, Jeronimo, tell us about the room you were in and what you learned. Hope it's a different room. A different room?
I was in the Rene group. In the group
okay,
of
no,
Rene.
we need somebody else. We need somebody else who was in another room. Santiago Botero. Santiago, you're in which room?
I am in the group 4.
And who was in that group?
It's Aslaka Foster.
Ascala, okay.
Ascala.
All right, tell me what you learned about Ascala.
She visit many countries, and She lived approximately 7 years in Colombia.
Wow, thank you, Santi. Thank you. All right, let me see who was in. Anybody was in a room with Vijay? Anybody?
Yes,
Raise your hand if
Paula.
you're in a room with Vijay. Paula? Paula? Okay,
Hi.
Paula. Tell us, Paula, what you learned from Vijay.
Well, I learned that India was a really big, like it says like that's like a country, like things that we do in Colombia, like hug, is so rare for other countries, I think, because I'll say like it's so rare that they don't hug anybody to like to how I say
Hi.
yes, to say hi.
All right, guys, good. And that's it, Paula?
No, nothing.
Okay. All right, guys. So our time has unfortunately come to an end. But it was really, really nice. I know, Natalia, I can see your face, and I wish we could stay longer as well. But our time has come to an end. I really want to thank Renee and BJ, like rhymes, no? Renee, BJ, Luella, Ascala. Oh, I did it on purpose. So I really want to thank you guys for joining us today. Renee, I'm gonna like your final words. Like if you wanted to say something to these guys, in 30 seconds to like just to say goodbye. So we're gonna start with Renee, then we move to BJ, then we move to Ascala, then Luella, and then we'll come to an end for today. Go ahead, Renee, your final words for today.
So, Mr. Bailey, you will have to arrange in my next visit to Bogota. You will have to make sure that we meet up, you and I.
Yes,
And
I'm gonna bring you Joan Pinar.
you're gonna bring, I was sharing in my group that there are times that I go to give presentations and workshops, and that if probably next year after Corona has settled down a little bit, I would love to meet some of the kids in person because I do travel to Colombia frequently. So looking forward to
I will
meeting
ensure
any
that
of
that
you
happens.
in person one day.
I will ensure that that happens, definitely. All right, BJ, your time. What are your final words?
It was exciting. Thanks for having me, guys. And this kind of brings memories back from Colombia. And I hope to visit next year, hopefully. Let's see. I want to go back to South America and travel a bit. And everyone, please stay positive. Please be mentally and physically healthy. That's very important during this pressing time we are going through. But we'll get through this. And thanks once again. Stay safe, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, BJ. Ascala. Your microphone is on mute, darling.
Okay, I'm back. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for welcoming us into your space today. You've been very, very hospitable. I want to send big shouts out to my group, Miss Margarita from Argentina, who gave me some very good ideas for tourism when I eventually go to Argentina. Big shout out to Santiago, who had all of the energy and asked me such amazing questions, and I really loved how he came into the session. And also Mr. Juan David. Wanda and I had a little personal joke, and he's got the most exceptional English vocabulary. So big shouts out to him.
Oh, that's good.
And everyone else who was in my group. Thank you very much, and hopefully meet some of you soon enough.
Thank you, Ascala. Thank you so much. All right, Luella. Your final words, darling.
Hi. Thank you guys for having me. This was so good. I had a good time. Thank you to all of the kids who asked questions, all of you who were listening. It was wonderful. And also, I'm so proud of you guys. Your English is coming along. It's quite good. Good work. I'm really proud of you guys. So take care of yourselves. The next time I'm in Bogota, I'm gonna hit you up.
Okay. All right, good. So guys, before we go, as usual, we're going to take a picture So they're
we're not
like,
going. Okay.
yeah. So everybody, you probably have to smile twice because I'm not sure which page you're
Sorry,
on.
go and turn on my
So,
sorry, sir.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can I quickly go and put my light on very, very quickly?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, so we're gonna wait for her to come back. She's gonna put her light on. But please remember, guys, next week Thursday at the same time we'll have other people joining us from other countries. So don't forget to join me next week Thursday at 9 o'clock Colombian time for another session. So let's take picture number 1, 3. Everybody look at the camera and smile. 3, 2, 1. All right, that was page 1. Now let's move to the next page. You have to smile again because I'm not quite sure which page you guys are on. So we're gonna smile again after 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you, guys. So on behalf of the government and people of Colombia, I'm joking. On behalf of our school, I really want to thank our 4 guests, Ascala, Luella, Vijay, and Renee for joining us. And I want to thank you guys from Escuela Media that you guys have joined us as well. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I will see you next week, Thursday at the same time, okay? All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Mr. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey,
Bye.
guys.
Bye,
Bye.
mister.
Bye, Mr. Romain.
Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you.
So wait, Renee, Ascala, Luella, Vijay, stay for a second. Okay. So waiting for Valentina. Valentina, you can leave. Thank you so much, darling. You're awesome.
Bye.
Bye, Vale. Okay, thank you guys. That was awesome. Thank you.
That was
I'm gonna take a
cool.
picture right here. Wait, picture. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you so much. This went well. This went well. This went well. And stuff. I was reading the comments that the students were writing in the chat. They're like, oh, I love this activity. This was so great. Thank you. Thank you. So they really enjoyed it. And I'm really happy that you guys could participate. This is something that they will never forget. They'll never forget. So thank you so much. You guys made my day. Thank you.
And they'll never forget you for being the Mr. Cool Romain who made it all happen.
It's so true.
No, but can I just say, I know I shouted him out, yeah, but Juan David, his English is amazing. I was like, this child's speaking better English than me. He was like, I know you're a highly cosmopolitan person. And I was like, what?
Yeah. No, there are a few of them.
He said, I was like, wow.
There are a few of them who are really good, like really.
Then he
really
did
good.
say, I really love the bitches. He meant beaches. He was like, I really love the bitches. And at the same time, we both just went, and I was like, it's okay, don't worry.
Oh man, that was fun. Thank you so much, guys. And Renee, I do hope that you have a wonderful time on the other side of the world when you get there. You probably should link up with Ascala. Ascala, you told them where you were working and stuff.
When I get there, I need to.
Yeah. You first need to get there.
I need to get out of one country, transit in another, and do all kinds of foolishness. Oh gosh. I got like all kinds of devices, messages, and phone calls just to sort things out.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm still live on YouTube. Wait. Stop live.